Good morning, everyone. My name is Tyson Jottin. I'm Executive Vice President of Broadview Networks. And thank you very much for attending today's presentation on Microsoft 365 Business Voice. One thing to mention is thanks to Ingram Micro and Microsoft, our sponsors of this event, we'll have a virtual door prize that will be awarded, actually not at the end of the presentation. We'll follow up after we get the list of attendees and we'll notify the people that have won by email. Want to say we're very proud to be listed on Manitoba's top employers for 2021. This is the 15th annual editorial competition, and it's the first time we've applied for it and the first time we're on it. So we're very privileged to be on this list with the top employers in Manitoba. So a lot of really hard work by our team, and a really strong commitment to the local marketplace makes us proud to be a Manitoba company and proud to be on this list. So let's get into Microsoft 365 Business Voice and what we want to focus on. And really what we want to talk about today is business calling today. And what does that mean? And today, if you're still using a traditional phone system, your calling is tied to either a desk phone or a cell phone. Those two systems may be integrated, but likely they're not closely integrated. You might be forwarding your desk phone number to your cell phone. And with COVID, which I'll talk about a few times today, not to hammer on it too much, but it does fit very well into today's conversation. The ability for people to work the same, inside and outside the office. Some phone systems, again, will support the ability to forward calls to your cell phone from your office phone, but then if people need to return those calls, they're doing it from their personal cell phones or from home phones, and that's not necessarily the position everybody wants to be in. You may be using teleconferencing applications, and you may be using more than one within your organization, and so you're juggling multiple different apps. You're potentially using Outlook as your primary calendaring and email application, but then if you're using an external third-party product for audio video collaboration, then you're managing your schedule in different places. Traditionally, most companies are going to have an on-premise PBX today, a traditional phone system. So there's a box, a server of some kind sitting in your phone room or in your server room. All your phones are physically connected to it either with direct cabling or over your network. That all has a maintenance cost, and complexity having multiple different vendors in place, one that provides your phone system, your video or audio collaboration solutions, possibly multiple in some of those instances. And so there's some complexity involved there for sure. So the anatomy of a traditional phone system, you have your phone endpoints, your handsets, your conference phones and so forth. And then you have connectivity to the phone company, PRI lines, analog phone lines. If your phone system is a little bit newer, you might have SIP trunks. But you're connected to the phone company, and then the phone company connects you to the public switch telephone network. That's the network that's existed for over 100 years now. That's telephone wires in the ground that runs under the ocean to connect to Europe and to Asia and to other countries. It runs through satellite and connects the world through telephone. And what we're really talking about today is connecting the world through telephone with connecting the world through internet, because the telephone network and the internet network are really two different networks. They may share some of the same media, but they operate as separate systems and separate networks. And so your traditional telephone network, where you're making a 10-digit phone number to call someone, is a very different and more complex routing in many ways than when you just click a button in Teams to call someone on Teams. So traditional phone system, you're going to have a phone system on premise or phones on premise connected to the phone company with lines in the ground, single point of failure, and connecting you to the public switch telephone network. So let's talk about why the traditional phone systems and traditional way that people have been interacting may not work for everybody, and why it might start to make sense to look at Teams as a phone system and Microsoft 365 Business Voice, which is the licensing platform for that. And really it's about the evolution of productivity. When we look at how people are working today, we see that the workplace is more collaborative than it's ever been before. You have more meetings that involve multiple people. More importantly, you have more tasks that require multiple people's involvement to be able to get accomplished. So collaboration is critical. We're more social than we ever were before. We have more devices. We have the devices in our hands more often. We're using them for more things throughout the day than we ever did before. Flexibility. This slide is pre-COVID, and in this slide, this is almost a 2-year-old slide, and that's why I keep this in here. A couple of years ago, the expectation was up to 72% of workers will be working remotely by 2020. Well, we've got more than that now, and do we have the necessary platforms to enable the functionality of that we would want? And we have the most generations participating in the workplace together than we've ever had at one time right now. And that multi-generational workplace requires the ability to support multiple people through different tools and different technologies to enable what they need to do. For a long time, a lot of work was individual focused. You'd be given an assignment, you would complete that assignment, and then you would pass it on to someone else. Or you had different business processes or business functions that you simply did by yourself, and you really didn't need a lot of involvement from anyone else. That's not the way many of us work anymore. Most decisions, even most changes, or even most business processes today involve multiple people, and they often involve multiple people simultaneously to be able to review information, dissect information, and then make a proper decision about what should be done. And the collective workplace is how the majority of us are either working today or moving towards working. Obviously, there's exceptions for people that are outside offices in very specific functions, but even then, if they're out in the field gathering data or if they're working at a job site, there's still information they need to bring back and share with others in a collective manner. And now we have an intelligent productivity workplace, and we want to make sure that we leverage that intelligent productivity correctly. And one of the key tools to doing that is communication and collaboration. When we look at Teams as a phone system, it really enables a lot of functions that you may be using or not using already and blends them together. You go from having a desk phone to an application. That application can run on your computer. That application can run on a dedicated Teams phone. That application can run on the Teams application on your cellular phone. And any of those are going to be the same experience. It's the same application, and it's now device independent. We move from having to juggle multiple different apps to one unified communications app. This supports everybody in how they work. If you need to phone someone, you can phone them, traditional phone call from Teams. If you need to chat with someone, if someone's on a job site or a work site or at a customer site and they have a question for someone else, they can see who's available because of the presence notification in Teams. Ask the right person the question, and then if the text-based communication in the Teams chat isn't working, they can start a video call or they can start an audio call. And in that video call, they can share their video and show what they're seeing at the job site. Suddenly we went from remote support being a over the phone trying to guess what the other person's seeing to a live conversation enabling enhanced productivity. You move away from on-premise PBX maintenance costs, and more importantly, you move away from a system that no matter what you do with it is going to become deprecated. Any on-premise PBX is going to have limitations for how long it can remain current and has to be replaced or upgraded with new hardware. A cloud-based phone system, just like the rest of the Office 365 suite, it's always being updated by Microsoft on the back end. It's always current. It's always going to have the latest capabilities. And we move to single provider simplicity. You choose Microsoft 365 Business Voice with Microsoft and Broadview Networks. We become your single source provider, and we become the support for that solution along with everything else you're doing with Microsoft Business Voice. So when we look at Microsoft phone system and the anatomy of it compared to the traditional phone system, now your phone is an application. It's not necessarily a physical handset. As I showed, it's an app running on a Teams phone. It's an app running on your desktop. It's an app running on your mobile device. Over the internet, it's connecting to Microsoft's cloud phone system, and then that is connecting to the public switch telephone network. So you can have large numbers of the people in your organization just work between the app and the back-end phone system, which is Teams, without ever even having to have PSTN connectivity. What we're talking about today is expanding Teams to enable PSTN connectivity so you can make traditional 10-digit dial phone calls from Teams. Very simply, like how you can make, Teams to Teams calls today with Teams. It's a simple calling solution. If you have the desk phone on your desk, you pick up the handset, you get a dial pad, you dial. There's not a whole lot of training that needs to happen there for people to be able to use it as a phone. Within the application itself, you click on the call screen, you touch the numbers you want to dial, it dials. And whatever audio video solution you have connected, in this case, audio connected to your PC, is going to be the speakers and microphone you're going to utilize. And of course, you have the app on the mobile phone. There's a menu in the client for the calling functionality. Your own phone number is displayed, the dial pad. You can copy and paste numbers in. In a lot of the browsers, if you click on a phone number, it'll pop up and say, do you want to call in Teams? You click a button, it calls in Teams. You don't have to copy and paste it at all. You have contacts, history, and voicemail right in the Teams interface, and voicemails have additional functionality we'll talk about later. And from the settings in Teams, you can manage your call forward settings. If you do want to call to another phone system or to an offline cellular phone or a different phone, depending if you're going to be somewhere where maybe you don't have very good internet or cell phone coverage. It simplifies life. It's one solution, it works from anywhere, it has a diverse set of rich calling features, and it's very easy to set up and manage. It's managed from the cloud, just like the rest of Office 365. So the basic calling features. We have call hold, call transfer, direct in dial numbers. You can switch which active device you're working on, distinctive ring, call history, all of the things you would expect any phone system to have. So this is a scenario where Alex wants to make a call. He clicks on the call icon and he's calling another user in Teams. So this doesn't even have to have phone system capability. This is just the ability to click on the call button and call someone in Teams and make a Teams voice call to another Teams user. But now if we want to leverage the PSTN connectivity, I want to dial an actual phone number. So I'll dial a 10-digit phone number. When I dial that 10-digit phone number, I click the call button, and now it looks just like any other Teams call or Teams meeting. It rings, the other person picks up the phone, and I'm having a phone call. It's very simple and easy to use. The nice thing, because you're in Teams at this point, you have all of the other Teams features available to you. You can transfer calls a variety of different ways. So a call comes in, I answer the call, I can put the call on hold, I can consult, so I can pick a person and I can chat with them and say, hey, you got a call from so-and-so, do you want to take this call? And if they say yes, I can click the transfer button and it transfers to them. If they say no, I can say transfer to voicemail, or I can just do a blind transfer if I don't want to check with the person first, and I just transfer the call, very similar to maybe how your receptionist might transfer calls today. Both of those options exist. It doesn't really make a difference whether you do a blind transfer or a consultative transfer, you're still going to get the call to the right person. Because we're leveraging Teams here, while you're in a call that started from Teams or started from the public switch telephone network, it's now Teams. It works just like a Teams call or a Teams meeting. Now you can add additional participants. You can pick people from a list, you can search them, or you can dial a phone number and dial someone else into the call. And suddenly it's a real-time conference call system. As soon as you add someone else to the Teams call, it technically becomes a Teams meeting, and then you get all the Teams meeting features and capabilities. So it's a fully integrated system. Really, we're taking everything Teams already has, from an audio video collaboration solution, and we're just adding the ability of connecting in the public switch telephone network. We have full voicemail functionality, and not only do you have the voicemails as a recording that you can see in the Teams interface, it also transcribes your voicemails for you, and you receive both the audio recording of the voicemail and the transcription in your email. The benefit of this is now you don't have to listen to the message to be able to hear it. If you're somewhere where you have your phone, you don't really want to listen to it, you can just read it. It's that simple and easy to do. And again, I can't reference this enough. Call anywhere from any device. It's the app that you're using. The device you're using it from becomes independent of what you're doing. Desktop, mobile, browser, which I forgot to mention earlier, iPhone, Android, whatever type of device that you want. Different types of peripherals you can attach. I'm using a Jabra speakerphone puck to talk to you today. The newer version of this is actually Bluetooth, and actually if you put two of these in a boardroom Bluetooth, they'll actually connect together and cover the whole room intelligently. And then there's all different types of headphone options and all different ways that you can get the audio portion and of your Teams call working with your device. The phone, the top left-hand corner there, is actually a Poly Alera, and that device is very unique. It basically is it's not actually a phone. You put your iPhone or Android device down on that, it Bluetooth joins to that main unit and gives you a phone, a desk phone-like experience, but it's actually leveraging the Teams app on your mobile device. You'll notice a purple button being highlighted on all of these devices. These are true Teams ready Teams peripherals. So when you press that Teams button, it knows to do a Teams function on those devices. There's a variety of different styles and types of Microsoft Teams phones, smaller ones, larger ones, video enabled ones, all different types of options for what types of phones you might want to have. And then there's options for how you want to put a phone in a room. As you see the picture there, this is the Poly Trio conference phone. So it's got the same interface on it. I realize my picture is quite small here in the corner, but it has the same interface that you see on the Teams app on the mobile device and on the desk phone. So a consistent look, feel, and experience, pardon me, for your users. Lenovo recently brought out the Think Smart View, which is basically a Android tablet, Teams phone, audio conferencing, video conferencing solution, all in one device you stick on your desk. It's got speakerphone capability built in. It has Bluetooth, so you can use a headset with it if you want. It's got a camera built in, so you can actually participate in a Teams meeting from that device without having to use your computer if you want to be using your computer to do something else while you're participating in that meeting. The experience for meetings is also similar across devices, and this is important not so much for the voice part of today's conversation, but just for that consistent look and feel experience across the entire Teams device ecosystem when you're using it, attending and watching a presentation, for example. There's also collaboration bars. These devices mount usually under a TV. They're going to have either one of those trios or a tablet that sits on the desk as the control unit, and this works like a high-end audio speaker bar, but they also are video enabled as well. So you mount it under your TV, and it audio and video enables a room for a pretty low cost compared to putting cameras in and putting speakers and microphones into the room. And it covers a rather large room. I'm in our boardroom, and today I'm going directly from my PC for a more personal experience. But often when we have meetings in this room, we will actually leverage one of those collaboration bars, and everyone in the room is a part of that Teams meeting with whoever's attending remotely. And then if you have a larger room or more diverse needs, there are complete Microsoft Teams Rooms solutions, even ones that give a content camera now that you put over your whiteboard so that your whiteboard can be shown during your Teams meetings. And of course, there's the Surface Hub, which is Microsoft's solution for an all-in-one portable audio video conferencing solution. And in this case, it's actually mounted on a stand with a battery unit that you charge up. So you can use this just about anywhere in your office. And it's a 100-point multi-touch screen, so you can wheel it into a room, participate in a meeting, interact with information on the screen with the Surface Hub. So getting back to the focus of Business Voice, whether it's an individual device, different types of phones, different peripherals you want to attach to your PC, to your phone, or to your mobile device, or the meeting room devices, you're going to have a wide variety of solutions for how to participate in Teams voice calls and in Teams meetings, because anything you can use for one, you can use for the other. Back to the calling features. So we have all the basic calling features you would expect out of a phone system, but we have a good set of advanced call features as well. There's advanced do not disturb and priority. There's delegation. So if you're away or not available, your calls can be delegated. There's a good set of call forwarding features, and there's a pretty broad set of calling features. Call park, call forwarding, hold. There's call queues. There's auto attendant functionality. Multilingual auto attendant, it understands dynamic 911, location-based routing, even some things traditional PBXs don't do because they're not cloud-based and they're focused on a specific site. The most critical part of this is because it's cloud-based, there's no single point of failure. As long as you've got an internet connection from a device, you've got your phone. The management of this system is quite simple as well. Like I mentioned, we're leveraging the Microsoft Teams calling platform, but this isn't a new product. And that's something that I always want to make sure we understand when we talk about something that seems new to the marketplace. It's new in its current iteration as a cloud-based solution first, and being, leveraging the Office 365 suite. But Microsoft Teams, the back-end calling part of it is actually still Skype for Business. It's still running in the cloud, and Skype for Business was around for quite a few years. Lync was around as an on-premise Microsoft phone system before that, and OCS and OCS R2 were around even before that. And I don't know how much time and experience you have with the Microsoft world, but usually Microsoft product gets best in its 5th iteration. And what I didn't put on here was Live Communication Server, which actually preceded OCS, and Teams is now version 5 essentially of Microsoft's audio video collaboration and communication solution. Microsoft is recognized as a leader on all Gartner and Forrester meetings and unified communication providers. They're up there. Are they the absolute top right corner in every scenario? No, not necessarily. But when you look at the fact that it integrates with Office 365 and it's a cloud-based solution and integrates with Office 365 natively, is a pretty compelling solution. So what do we need to do to allow Teams to become a phone system? So you have Office 365 already. You're already using it for email potentially, for SharePoint or the other features of Office 365. And hopefully you're already using Microsoft Teams for meetings and for chat, and even for computer to computer audio calling or video calling with Teams today. What we're doing now with Microsoft Business Voice is we're adding on the cloud PBX functionality. So we're adding the phone system license, which gives you a PBX in the cloud, and all of that phone routing capability, the call forwarding, the call parking, all of that, deciding what numbers line up with which users, that's all part of that PBX backend. Again, all managed through the Office 365 admin console online. Now we need to add phone lines. So the phone system is the PBX, but you have to plug phone lines into the PBX for it to actually be able to dial the outside world or receive calls from the outside world. And there's a couple of different options here. One option is a Microsoft calling plan. So Microsoft has connectivity in the back end of the phone system so that they can plug phone numbers directly into the Microsoft phone system as part of Microsoft 365 Business Voice. In that case, you're paying Microsoft via us for both the licensing for your phone system and for the actual phone lines that are enabling your users to send and receive phone calls. And it's very similar to like cellular phone plans. There's a number of different plans out there. They come in a variety of different sizes and shapes. The Microsoft 365 Business Voice product is a couple of these components brought together, and I'll come to that in a minute. You can bring your existing phone numbers over. It's called porting, and in most parts of Manitoba that is supported. There are some parts of Manitoba where that may not be enabled. There's a couple of different ways we can potentially deal with that. Or you can just get new phone numbers from Microsoft, and they'll still be 204 phone numbers or 431 phone numbers, depending on when you get them and what you get, but they're still local phone numbers. The fact that the phone lines aren't coming through the ground to your physical location doesn't determine whether it's a 204 or 431 phone number. It's simply how the line is provisioned and where what phone number you choose, which gives you a lot of variety in your phone system because you can have different phone numbers with different area codes and different prefixes if you have different locations across the country, very simply in Microsoft calling plans or Microsoft phone system as a whole, because it doesn't really care where you are. It routes those phone calls to you no matter what. The other option is direct routing. Direct routing is when you want to leverage your existing telco's existing calling services. So you have a PRI or a SIP function that you're already getting from your telephone provider and you're in a contract, or for a variety of other reasons, you just may want to redirect the phone lines that are coming to your physical location today. And in that case, we put in something called a session border controller. It's a piece of hardware that goes in and it tells you plug that in, you plug your phone lines into that, and it sends your phone lines to the cloud. Or it can send some of your phone lines to the cloud and some of your phone lines to your on-premise PBX. So it can also be a part of a solution for how you migrate from your current on-premise PBX to the cloud. Either way, those are the important components that you need to be able to make it all work. You need Office 365 with Teams, you need to add on phone system, and then you need to add on PSTN connectivity to actually be able to make phone calls and receive phone calls. And you do that either via Microsoft calling plans or direct routing. So Microsoft has put together a bundle. And if you're on Microsoft 365 Business Standard, which used to be Office 365 Business Essentials, or sorry, Basic, if you're on Microsoft 365 Business Basic, which used to be Office 365 Business Essentials, or on Microsoft 365 Business Standard, which used to be Office 365 Business Premium, or you're on Microsoft 365 Business Premium, which used to be Microsoft 365 Business. I apologize for all those different words. Your best bet is going to be to buy one of these two add-on licenses. The Microsoft 365 Business Voice is a combination of that phone system license I talked about. It also adds on an audio conferencing license. I'll come back to that in a minute. And then it adds on the domestic calling plan of 3,000 minutes per user per month. Domestic being Canada and the United States. It's not North America. Mexico is not included. So it's Canada and the US, 3,000 minutes per user per month. If you need international calling at a regular amount, you can add on communication credits, which is basically just a pool of dollars so that if someone goes over their 3,000 minutes or makes a long distance call, it pulls from those communication credits. If you have users that are going to make a lot of international calls, it's more cost effective to add on the international calling plan, which adds 600 minutes per month per user of international calling. So that's if you want to abandon your current phone service. If you want to leverage your current phone service and take advantage of direct routing, then you can buy the licensing without the PSTN connectivity from Microsoft. And that's Microsoft 365 Business Voice without a calling plan. Both of those include the phone system license. Both of those include audio conferencing. The full Business Voice includes your PSTN phone line capabilities, your phone numbers from Microsoft. Audio conferencing is the ability to give your Microsoft Teams meetings the ability to be PSTN connected so that you can Have people join a Microsoft Teams meeting by dialing a phone number, or so that you can add people to an active Teams meeting by calling, even if the user doesn't have PSTN licensing built in. So in this case, we use it for meeting rooms, and we use it for users whether they have the PSTN for individual calling or not. Apologize if that becomes complex. There's a lot of little moving pieces there, but it's always a conversation we can take offline. The Teams Admin Center, like I mentioned, it's part of the Office 365 online admin portal. In here, you come in, you manage your devices, you manage your locations, you manage your users, you set your meeting policies, and then in the voice section, you go in and you configure your call routing, your call policies, all of those features. That's analytics and quality dashboard as well. You can get a lot of detailed information about what's happening and see who's been using what. You can also get a breakdown of which users are taking from those communication threads I talked about, so you can understand. The call quality dashboard gives you that overview of exactly what's happening from a call usage perspective, and you can actually access this in Power BI. So if you are leveraging Power BI, you get that call information in a Power BI format as opposed to Excel spreadsheets, or you can use both. Compliance recording is also available. So if you have a reason that you need to initiate recording of calls, that's available, and a flow can be set up to trigger the call recording in the scenarios where you need to have that happening. Now, an important question is, how are you going to migrate? And how are you going to get from your current phone system to Microsoft Business Voice leveraging Teams as a phone system? As many of you may know, people don't like change, and people generally resist change. And you possibly have people using some level of shadow IT in your environment already, where they're using either, potentially online phone systems, or they're using a variety of different video or audio conferencing solutions, which may not be part of the company standard. You have a variety of different types of users in your organization. Not everyone's going to want to engage in this technology to the same level, and not everyone's going to want to use it the same way. That's why we have a variety of different devices for people to use, and a variety of different ways for people to experience Teams and Teams calling. What we need to do is develop a plan, put together a pilot if necessary, and then have an effective readiness strategy that leverages the right technology, the right hardware, and the right training to make everything go properly. There's two different migration paths we can basically look at. We can look at a coexistence migration, where we implement Teams in step with your current PBX, whether it be just some of the functionality of Teams or all of the functionality of Teams, and then we overlap capabilities, or we can do a cutover migration, where we get everyone prepared and then define a time where we cut over and all the old phone system goes away. Which one's going to make sense depends on what level of usage and experience your organization already has with Teams, and what contracts and what changes need to be made to devices and the end user experience. Phase one is always going to be starting off with using Teams to Teams calling. No phone system connectivity, not talking about PSTN at all, just using Teams as a one-to-one calling or meeting experience if you've already been using it that way. But you keep your existing phone system, you keep your existing phone lines. Phase two is bringing PSTN calling into Teams. At this point, you may keep your existing PBX for a period of time and forward calls if that's what makes sense, or if we're doing a cutover, we'll just switch it over. Phase three is extension dialing, adding on analog stations, adding on integrated systems if you need paging systems or visual notification systems. And then phase four we have a fully integrated Teams voice solution, and the old PBX, the old legacy solution, is completely gone. So it's really easy to get started. First, you have to have a valid Office 365 subscription. If you don't have one, that's really easy to happen. We need to get people starting to use Teams. And then there is a 30-day trial that we can leverage. And with that 30-day trial, sorry, I got some of my slides out of order here. With that 30-day trial, we have an actual POC. And so you can leverage the POC. We'll leverage that 30-day trial from Microsoft, and it has all the features of the paid subscription. It's technically actually 25 users and 25 lines. We recommend getting started with about 5 users, and we'll help you get that set up and running for like 5 users roughly, and experience what it's like to use Teams as a phone system. And then we can talk about more advanced things you might want to do with that, depending on what makes the most sense for your organization. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on a little bit of a demonstration, just so you can see what the actual end user experience is like. So I'm going to get Jordan to call me. And just texting him. And when he calls, at first he's going to call, and because I'm in a Teams meeting right now, and because I'm using the Teams live meetings webinar function for this, when he calls me, it's actually going to ring on all of my devices. And I did things a little different than most organizations normally would. I've got that desk phone that I showed earlier, that conference phone, and of course my app on my mobile device, all integrated. And you'll see that it's actually ringing on my desktop. It's ringing on my mobile device at the top here. It's ringing on my desk phone, and it's ringing on that conference phone. So that experience that you're going to see as an end user is the same no matter what. And you know it's a PSTN call because it actually shows the phone number. Oh, I guess you can actually share the screen. Sorry. But in my bottom window, it actually pops up and shows what I'm actually, the number I'm actually receiving from. And I need to change my status. And then I'll share my screen. I'll go back to Teams. I'll get Jordan to call me again. Coming back and do not disturb again, because I'm presenting, it doesn't show up on my actual computer screen, but it shows up on all the phones, just like I had mentioned it would. So very simple to use, very easy, and the same experience across all of the different devices. Really doesn't matter which type of device you want to use, you're going to have the same call experience for all of your users. One thing I do want to mention is there's going to be in the question and answer section a webinar feedback form. Love to get your feedback. If you know Broadview Networks, you know that we like to get as much feedback as we possibly can, and we'd like to hear what you liked about the session, if you have any ideas about what maybe we should change. So please, if you get a chance, fill out that webinar. And now I'll take any questions if there's any questions. It looks like we have a question about call center functionality. So Built into Teams natively, there is call queuing capabilities. So there is some level of call center functionality built in automatically. If the call routing and call queuing that's built into technically Microsoft phone system and Teams, then you can add on a number of third-party solutions that enhance what Microsoft has out of the box with Microsoft phone system. And those integrations are API based, so they're direct integrations into Microsoft Teams. And most of those, the integrated application actually works right in the Teams app. So it's actually another app right inside of the Teams interface. So it's not like you have to run a different application or do something completely different. One question, is there a chance to use existing hardware, Cisco SIP phones? No, the Microsoft Teams phones aren't making a SIP connection back to Microsoft's Cloud PBX. They're actually Android devices running the actual Microsoft Teams app, a specialized version of the Teams app on the phone. So they have to use a Teams app to be able to connect back to Microsoft's Teams PBX. No, the PBX license is not in addition to the Microsoft 365 Business Voice. So the Microsoft 365 full Business Voice license, which is a list price of $25, but on a promo right now for $22.50, is the license, the audio conferencing license, and the phone system connectivity, the PSTN, your calling plan, all in a bundle at that price. Yes, I believe this recording will be available on our website afterwards for people to be able to view if they want to or share with others. Wait and see if there's any other questions. Oh yeah, I missed some questions. So session border controllers, there's a variety of different options. How expensive a session border, sorry, the question was, what does the session border controller pricing look like if we were to go without a calling plan? So there are a number of different types of session border controllers, depending on whether you've got analog phone lines that are coming into your current space, whether you're going to use it with PRI or SIP, whether you needed to feed any other analog systems in your office. But they can start as low as $1,500 and they can go up into the, thousands, depending on how complex it needs to be, tens of thousands even. But most organizations, most small businesses in Manitoba, $1,500 to $2,000 for a single unit. You might want two for high availability, depending on how long you think a session border controller will be a part of your solution. We are actually in the process. The question was, does Broadview Networks use Teams as your primary phone system? We are not using it as our primary phone system today. We actually just got our session border controller in, and we're in the process right now of configuring ours so that we can start utilizing Microsoft Teams as a phone system, because we are in a PRI contract, and we certainly want to honor that contract. And so we'll be transitioning away from our traditional on-premise PBX to Microsoft Teams as a phone system. There are a couple of us that do have it turned on and are using it. I use it quite a lot. So if you ever get a phone call from me, it's likely you're getting it from my Teams phone number, which is different than my office phone number because I have been using it for a little while now. I think I missed another question. Nope, that's all the questions so far. Any other questions or anything else anyone wants to see or discuss? Are there any other pricing options other than per user per month? Yes, there's an annual option, but technically everything is still per user because it's an Office 365 environment. The licensing is all by user. If you're a really large organization, then you can leverage Microsoft volume licensing and the add-ons to the volume licensing that's available for cloud services for Office 365 and then of course for Business Voice. But by default, it is per user per month, or you can pay annually, but it's all per user pricing. Just wait a moment and see if there's any other questions. We have an overly large boardroom that has had speakerphone issues in the past with regular speakerphones. How do these improved speakerphones handle very, very large rooms? So depending on what you mean by a very, very large room. So the room I'm in right now is, I'm really bad at space. I mean, it seats 18 people very comfortably along on a large boardroom. So it's, 30 feet long, 20 feet wide. And that collaboration bar at the front of the room does the room quite well. If you want a real high fidelity solution, then you would put potentially speakers in the ceiling and microphones in the ceiling with a camera at the front and or at the back of the room, leveraging what's called a Microsoft Teams room system. So it would be a PC that you would connect all of that up to, and that PC would be running a special version of the Teams client. So there's really scalable options for every size of a room. You can take a Jabra Panacast camera like this and a speakerphone puck like this and handle a 10 by 10 room, no problem with TV in that room if you want to have video in the room. You can get those collaboration bars in a small version that is for a huddle room, 10 feet by 10 feet. Like I said, the collaboration bar we have is, about 2 feet long by about, 6 inches high, and it covers this room, no problem. Lots of different options, lots of different types of room solutions out there. No, we have not implemented, sorry, the question was, did Broadview implement direct routing in Manitoba? No, we are not a telco, so we can't provide direct routing ourselves. So the only people that can provide direct routing services into Teams is either you leverage your existing telco and you put an SBC in and then it ships the phone calls to Teams, or you use a telco provider that has direct routing functionality inside of their system to be able to send phone calls to Teams, but you have to be a telco to do that. And we are not a telco, so we don't do that ourselves, but we partner with a couple of organizations that do that. And there are some local companies, some local telco solution providers that are in the process of bringing forward direct routing into Teams as well. Yes, you can sync multiple, sorry, the question was, can you sync multiple speakerphones in the same room for large rooms? Yeah, there are a couple of different technologies that allow that, whether it be these pucks or some of the different collaboration or conference phone solutions allow for synchronization across the room. This device also has inputs for additional microphones, but from a speaker perspective, this device covers this room no problem whatsoever. Cost of Teams room systems really ranges. It's really going to come down to the cameras and the audio quality. Sorry, the quality of the audio technology you need to put into the room and the amount of it. So they can start around $5,000, most full Teams room systems, but they can scale to the tens of thousands depending on the complexity of the room. So make sure I got all the questions here. Okay, yeah, I think I've caught up on all the questions. So unless there's any other questions, thank you all very, very much. I appreciate your time. And if you have extra questions, any other questions, or want to talk specifically about what your needs are for your environment, of course, those discussions, there's no cost, pardon me, to our pre-sales process and to helping to understand and size a solution for your environment. So don't hesitate to contact anyone at Broadview Networks if you have any questions about Teams as a phone system and Microsoft 365 Business Voice. So thanks everyone, and stay safe. Bye.